Welcome to the NICU Today Podcast, a podcast to give families a new point of support as they navigate the NICU journey. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe wherever you enjoy your podcast and share this episode with anyone who might find it helpful. Welcome back to the NICU Today podcast. Our guest today is Emily Rosen. She is a mom, a freelance creative director and copywriter, and a children's book author. She has built her career working for top advertising agencies and brands and strives to use her creativity for good, especially to empower women, mothers, and kids. Inspired by her son Max's time in the NICU, she wrote her first children's book to help families like hers. When Emily's not writing, she loves going for a run around the neighborhood, singing karaoke with friends. I'm right there with you, Emily. And reading to her two kids. Proudly born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, she now lives in Los Angeles with her husband and their family. Welcome to the NICU Today podcast.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
All right. What's your go-to karaoke song?
It's not very kid friendly, but Salt and Pepper Shoop. I love rapping that one.
All right. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Mine is 9 to 5, Dolly Parton. Okay.
Oh, great one.
That's
Love
my
it.
go-to. Well, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today and excited for you to share with our listeners about your new book that you've just written. But I always love to start and ask, tell us about your journey to starting a family. We'll get to the NICU experience as well, but tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So I have a son, Max, who's now 6. He was born in 2019. He was due June 25th of that year, but on May 15th of that year, my water broke unexpectedly and rushed to the hospital. And 20 hours later, he arrived. So he was 6 weeks early. And due to that, he spent 16 days in the NICU. And those were, some of the hardest days I've ever had, having to wait for him to come home. And he mostly needed to learn to eat and grow. But he had one heart disorder come up called SVT that caused his heart to beat faster than it was supposed to. So that was a setback while we were there, but he ended up being okay, and we got to take him home after 16 days.
So he came home before his due date.
Yes, much before.
Yes. And what's so important, I think what we talk about a lot at Today is a Good Day. It's always our rule within our team that we never use the words only or just. And, some of us, we all have different NICU journeys that sometimes last 3 days, 7 days, 16 days, 103 days like us or longer. And all of those days are difficult to experience when going through the NICU because it's not where you want to be. It's not where you expect to be. And it's challenging. And all of us face different challenges during those times. Did you know anything about the NICU before you went through it with Max?
Not really. I had a couple friends who had babies early that had been in the NICU, but no one that I was super close with at the time. So when I went into labor and I was in the hospital room, one of the doctors from the NICU came in and kind of explained to us, because your son is going to be arriving so early, he will be spending time in the NICU, and this is what it's going to look like. And so that was all surprising and new to us. So we were just kind of throwing all this information, on top of being in the middle of labor unexpectedly. But, obviously got to know it very well, as as we spent every day there for over 2 weeks.
How did you kind of process that information? I mean, what did you tell yourself? How did you kind of work through that to be like, okay, we're going to be in the NICU now, and this is what this is going to look like for us?
I mean, it was really hard. I don't know if I processed it as calmly as, some people do. It was shocking. And when you're not expecting it to go this way and no one does, it takes a lot to take that in and kind of relinquish some of that control to someone else when you think that, okay, I'm going to have this baby and be home a couple of days later. I remember right after Max was born, he was on my chest for like 30 seconds, and then they took him to the NICU, and I had to tell my husband, like, you need to go follow him. Like, he was like, wanted to make sure I was okay, because he's a very good caretaker in that way. But, just you kind of have to like go with it and do what they're telling you needs to be done. And, I couldn't go down and see him for a few hours because they had to stitch me up and make sure I was all good with my recovery. And you don't have any control over that, unfortunately. So you just kind of have to be okay with it in a way.
Do you feel like, Emily, was there anything that you did going into the NICU to try and make sure that you were a part of the care team? We talk a lot about families going in and feeling as though just not sure where they kind of fit in with the medical team, to make sure that they are being the parents, they are going in to do that. Was there anything that stuck out to you, just for our listeners who may be tuning in, to make sure you were a part of the care team with Max?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, once I was out of the hospital after 2 days, we came back every day. We were lucky to live just like 10 to 15 minutes from the hospital. So we came back like 3 times a day for during the feeding times, because that's when the stuff is happening, when the baby's not just sleeping. And so we got to, if he was taking bottles at some point, we got to give him bottles. We got to do skin to skin when that was okay. And when that's happening, you can then, have those conversations with the nurses, the doctors, the OTs that are around, and really take in all that knowledge. I'm someone who writes everything down and asks a lot of questions. So I think that really helped as well. And if things weren't clear, if one person told me one thing and someone else told me another, made sure, like, okay, what is the real like information and answer here? Like, don't be afraid to keep asking questions till you understand. Like, unless you're a medical professional, you're probably not going to understand it right away. And so just use your voice as much as you want and can.
Well, I think that's important that you said, because sometimes when you are talking, obviously different nurses take care of babies in the NICU, different nurse shift change, the night shift,
Right.
day shift, the neonatologist, if there's a huge team there, they can sometimes have differing opinions, for sure. And it really is processing the answers that you get and trying to sort through all of that information to make we always say, make the best decision you can based upon the information that you have, right?
Definitely. And I think too, like I had mentioned, I knew a couple people who had been through the NICU, and I reached out to them and they gave me good advice too. And it was really helpful to talk to other moms that had been through what I was going through, and comforting to know that, their kids were now okay and home. And it was a long, tiring, hard road, but they got through it. And, they also gave good advice on questions to ask and how to handle certain things. So I think if you have someone in your life, or you can reach out to an organization like yours or others that help families that are going through it, that can really be great support as well.
It's so true. And I also recommend, if you are looking for those groups, I found a lot of value in some Facebook groups that are out there too. And you really have to decide kind of what you're looking for. Some of those Facebook groups can have thousands of people in. And I always say, I'm not sure I'm one that would post in a group like that, just because of the
Hmm.
response, the number of responses that could potentially come my way. But I have found value in reading some other people's stories. I've shared before on the podcast, our son who had trisomy 18, he was with us just a short time after he was born, before he passed away. But I found a group there that was so valuable, just the ways that different families navigated through the pregnancy, welcoming their child, memory making, different things that they did. So really encouraging, just like you said, if you have anyone within your network, but also looking at groups that are out there that might make sense to join. You can really pull some great feedback and recommendations from those groups, for sure.
Definitely.
So it's so hard leaving your baby in the NICU, kind of that first day going home, especially. But when you and I had talked, you had shared a little bit about something neat that you did at home, and I just wanted to ask you what did you do at home to kind of help you stay connected with Max while he was in the NICU?
Yeah. So every day I was crying, and whenever we had to leave him, especially in the evening when we knew we wouldn't come back till the morning. And there was one night, it was probably 10:30, 11 o'clock, and we were driving home, and just a few blocks from the hospital on our way home is a CVS, and they have those kiosks where you can connect your phone and print photos right there. And so I was like, through my tears, I was saying to my husband, can we stop at CVS and print out some photos of Max to have at home? And so we did that, 2 or 3 times while he was in the NICU. And that really helped. When you have a new baby, you have pictures of them around the house. And whether they came home after 2 days or they're pictures of them with monitors and a feeding tube, like, you want to have those pictures. And it really helped to just have him around when we weren't at the hospital with him. And that's something that I then felt was really important to include in my book, in the illustrations, because there's several moments in there where the parents show the older sister of the baby Max in the NICU pictures of him, since she can't go visit him. And I really wanted some of those to be printed photos to reflect our experience. And also, I think it's a great way for any family going through it to kind of bring that baby home. So you'll see in the book pictures on her bulletin board in her room or hung up on the refrigerator, in addition to seeing the phone videos and pictures as well.
I love that idea so much, and just, putting them everywhere, right? Bathroom
Yeah.
mirror, just kind of all over the place. Such a great idea. I
Yeah.
will say I've invested in an at-home printer that I can put my phone on. I use it more than you would imagine. I use it for quite a bit.
I should get that because I print a lot. I'm always like, you'll see my house is full of frame photos. Whenever friends come over, they're like, wow, I need to print more family photos out. You're so good at that.
I have invested in a Kodak printer that
Yeah,
is.
I might do that after this.
Yeah, I love it. Well, you mentioned your book, and I wanna hear a little bit more about your book that you have. I know we've talked with you about sharing this book and our sibling care packages that we put together for families, but what inspired you to write this book?
A few things. I think another thing that kind of kept us going in the NICU journey, in addition to the photos, was bringing books to read to Max every day. It felt like one normal new parent thing we could do amongst everything else that wasn't what we expected or normal. And in that, we had such great books to read to him, but it was hard to find books that reflected our story. And I've always wanted to write a children's book. I've been a writer my whole career as a copywriter in advertising. Um, but it's always been a dream to write a children's book as well. So I took a course in 2021 online and kind of learned about all the elements that you need to think about when writing a picture book, and thinking about ideas. This idea of writing about a NICU baby really rose to the top because, as you know better than anyone, 1 in 10 babies go to the NICU. And there's not a lot of great resources out for the kids that are connected to that baby, whether it's their older sibling or older cousin or next door neighbor that doesn't understand why that baby is not coming home right away. And so this book is for them to explain what's going on in a really kid-friendly way and give them a way to kind of answer their questions, process their emotions, and also bring some hope and smiles to a hard situation.
Well, and you did not have an older child at home
No.
when you wrote this book, so it's really interesting to have kind of that perspective of it, and digging just a little deeper into that, did you see that as kind of a missing piece for families?
Yeah, I think so. I think, at first I thought the story would just be about the NICU baby. And then in thinking about it further and talking to people, it kind of became clear that the need was for the older kids in their life. Obviously, you want to read to the NICU baby, and this is a great book to read to them when they get older, to explain their beginnings. But in the moment, like when a family has another kid at home, or a niece or family friend, this is a great tool to kind of start that conversation. And it really just channels all the feelings I had of desperately wanting Max to come home, but from the perspective of this sister. And, I've witnessed how hard it is for Max to wait for things, very much smaller than a sibling coming home, and in the car, he's like, how much longer? And then 20 seconds later, he's like, okay, how much longer now till we get there? And so this book just really reflects, how hard it is to wait for something so important, and offers like ways to kind of help these kids get through it and talk about it with their families.
Love that. Yeah. And I would encourage our listeners here, if you have older children at home and you're navigating through the NICU, check into the resources that are available out there. Just like Emily has shared about her book that she has written, but also Today is a Good Day has sibling care packages available. There's lots of organizations out there that have sibling support available. So you can look into that and even ask your hospital, do you have anything available? Or can we take some pictures? Could we do something to take home for the child at home, because that is such an important piece, and especially right now, because not always, I mean, with COVID for sure, but the regulations on how old children need to be before going into hospitals, that is always different at each NICU. And so making sure that you ask about that at your hospital. So how is Max doing today?
He's great. He's 6. He started kindergarten and is loving it. He is super social. He loves to have dance parties and play basketball, and he's just a really creative, like very loving guy. And we have a daughter, Eva, who's 11 months, and he's the best big brother to her. He, there were, some things he was working on, like he's been in occupational therapy for a few years, working on fine motor and gross motor and social emotional learning things. And, there are definitely effects of being premature. I mean, there's no way to know exactly what causes these things, at least in our case, but he, was working on some things, but he's really thriving now and just a happy, wonderful kid. And we're really grateful for him.
Well, you said he likes dance parties. What's his favorite
Yes.
go-to karaoke song?
So we actually have a karaoke machine at our house, and I've tried to introduce him to songs that I like Usher or like Backstreet Boys. But right now he's really into SpongeBob and like
All
this
right.
like dance version of the SpongeBob theme song. So,
Love it.
and the book is dedicated to him, which he's really excited about it. I just donated a copy to his school library, and so he's very involved in it as well, which is wonderful.
I love it. And where is the book currently available?
So it's available to buy anywhere books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your local bookstore, bookshop.org. It's available from the Collective Book Studio site, which is my publisher. Wherever you like to buy books, you can get this book online or in stores.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share with our listeners today about your experience through the NICU or anything else?
Um, I just want to say, if you're going through it now, like you're not alone, and it feels really isolating in the moment, especially when you're sitting in the NICU with fluorescent lights on you and all the beeping monitors, and it's a really hard time. But we've all been through it, you and I and so many other parents. And there's so many ways to get help as you're going through it in the hospital and outside of it. And just sending love to every NICU family out there. And that's why I wrote this book, is for all the NICU families to help support in some way. And I'll be donating some of the proceeds of the books to NICU organizations and hospitals, and I've already started donating books to hospitals as well, and to your sibling care kits and other places. So yeah. And you
That's
can also
wonderful.
find me on Instagram at Emily Rosen Creative if you want to learn more about my journey.
Love it. Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining me on the NICU Today podcast today. Really appreciate hearing your story, and congratulations on the new book.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the NICU Today podcast, brought to you by Today is a Good Day. Learn more at todayisagooddday.org.